Shalom. We are continuing. This is part 5 in our series of Rav Kook's Lights of War. And Israel is going through a difficult time now in our own war. And it's a good opportunity to learn Rav Kook's deeper understanding of what war means to history and to the Jewish people and to the individual. And last time we learned that Rav Kook points out that all the heroes of the Tanakh were physically strong and they were military heroes. And the question is why? So last time we spoke about how it comes to teach us that the ideal Jew is a healthy soul and a healthy body. But another aspect is the concept that we mentioned before, that the goal of Judaism is to be godly, what's called in Latin imitatio Dei. And in Kabbalah, we know that God is attributed 10 spheres: Keter, Chochmah, Binah, Gdula, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. And one of God's traits is Gvura, strength. Now, Rav Kook, a lot of his writings are based on rabbinic sources in the Talmud, but also a lot is from the Kabbalah and from Chassidut. He really unites and harmonizes all the different sources. So we have to understand, what is this Kabbalistic concept or godly attribute of Gevura? And Rav Yosef Albo, in his Sefer HaYikarim, he lived about 650 years ago. In the 4th article, chapter 35, he says something very beautifully. We know that the second blessing, the second bracha of Shmona Esrei, is called Gevurot. The Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit says, Ata gibor leolam Hashem, God, you are strong, you revive the dead, you heal the sick, etc., etc. And Rav Yosef Albo goes on to explain that the strength of God is the exact opposite of the strength of man. It's interesting. I mentioned last time that if you ask a group of people to draw a picture of a strong person, very often you get a boxer, you get a knight in shining armor, you get a Superman, and if you think of what is the goal of the boxer, he comes into the ring. His role is to knock down his opponent, often even sends him to the hospital. On the other hand, the strength of God, we say in the Tefillah, is the exact opposite. Ata gibor leolam Hashem, God, you are so strong, not that you kill those who are alive, but you revive those who are dead. Not that you send the healthy to the hospital, but that you heal the sick, rofeh cholim. Somech noflim, not that you can knock down your opponent like the boxer tries, but in Judaism, we emulate God's strength, which is a life-giving, not a life-taking strength. And this is the strength that we admire in all the heroes of the Tanakh, where throughout the generations, when people were attacking the Jewish people, unfortunately, we can talk another time about why there's anti-Semitism, but that's a fact. And when there's a Jewish state, inevitably, there are going to be wars. And the heroes of the Tanakh are all physically strong in order to give life. Now, when did I really understand this point? During Chomat Magen, that was operation in 2003, in Taf Shin Samach Gimel, where some of you may remember there were the second Intifada. There were a lot of suicide bombers, and the straw that broke the camel's back was on Leil HaSeder, Pesach night, in the Park Hotel in Netanya. A suicide bomber blew himself up and killing some 30. Most of them were tourists from England, from France. And Arik Sharon, who was the prime minister, he said, that's enough. And we went out, and I was stationed in Ramallah. And today, it's hard for young people to imagine a world without Google Maps, and just you can print any map that you want in the world. But when we went to Ramallah to make all of these arrests and to take away the illegal arms from the Arab terrorists, first thing we did when we came into Ramallah is we got on a bus with an intelligence officer. Everyone was given a pen and paper, and we had to draw a map of Ramallah. And you draw, the name tells us this is the street named Mahmad something, this street is Ahmad something, this street is Muhammad something, and every street, Fatima, every street is named after a person. And then we got to a street with the name, if I remember correctly, Kazi Akamoto, a Japanese-sounding name. And I always like trivia, and I asked the commander, wasn't that the Japanese terrorist who killed like 30 people in the Ben Gurion airport? It wasn't called Ben Gurion yet. And he says, Boker Tov, good morning, you didn't notice? The streets of Ramallah are named after terrorists. And the more Jews that a terrorist killed, the larger the avenue. Small terrorist killed a couple of Jews, he gets a small street. Kill a lot of Jews, you get an avenue. Kill a lot of Jews, you get a park, you get a traffic circle. And it hit me that this is the exact opposite of the Israel Defense Force. The IDF is to come to defend the Jewish people. It's a life-giving gevurah. And just one last example. In Moreshet Krav, in the Israeli army, very often on Sundays, they teach the soldiers, the young soldiers, stories about wars, the history of the Israeli army. There is not one Israeli soldier who did not learn the story of Ro'i Klein, the yeshiva boy, who from the Yeshuva Veli, who in the Second Lebanese War, a hand grenade was thrown into this empty house, and he jumped on the hand grenade, which was about to explode. It was rolling around. As he said, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, absorbing all of the shrapnel in his body in order to save his platoon. And that is a life-giving gevurah. And that is why the IDF is going out to wallop the Hamas, because they killed 1,300 of our people. They kidnapped more than 200 of our people, women, children, disgusting things. Just like we learned in the first lesson that there is an ideal to fight against evil, what we're also learning today is that we want to give life. And God is called a Melech Hafetz B'chaim. He is a God who likes life. And that is why, as opposed to our enemies who want to take life, our fighting is to give life. Shalom.